It is hard coming to the realization that the reason that you're broke isn't because you're not earning enough money, but it's because you're not actually addressing the financial issues that you have, because you're not looking at money, and because you don't really understand the relationship that you have with money. And this is not about me preaching. This is not about me trying to pretend to be a guru, because guess what? I am right there with you. Welcome back to our Financial Fridays, everyone. It has really been quite a ride trying to figure out my finances for getting closer to retirement. I'm not at retirement, so I don't want to keep saying that this is retirement related, but it is getting closer to that time. And I am thinking about what does the future look like. And I've been thinking a lot about manifestation and manifesting my best self going forward. And finances is a big part of that, because looking at the actual numbers has really caused me to take a step back and pause and be real about what I have been doing right and what I have been doing very wrong. And I think that it's hard to be honest about that. A lot of times we are not taught as a society, and certainly not as women, to talk about finances, to be open about finances, to talk about the ways that we can grow our financial wealth, because that seems selfish. And that seems like we're just being boastful. And right, we're trying to put it out there like, oh my gosh, look how much money I have. Or, oh, poor me, look how much money I don't have. No, it's about being honest and being real and being educated about things that we have traditionally and historically not been privy to. And that's just the truth. Women have historically been locked out of financial decisions, financial investment, thinking about what our futures mean on our own, not just tied to a husband, not just tied to a family, not just tied to anyone else. Independently, right? We are our own people, we are our own entities. So, us taking charge of and really taking a look at our finances is important. It's actually vital. It's very, very important. So, three big ways that I think that women are not serving ourselves. Again, I am right there. I'm not preaching. I'm not a financial expert. But three of the big ways that I think that we are not doing a service to ourselves and society is not helping us at all is number one, by looking at the real numbers, looking at our bills, looking at our income, looking at the way that we are saving money, spending money, getting income, investing money, and looking at our retirement accounts and really looking deeply at these retirement accounts as far as the different retirement vehicles there are, the ways that we can invest for the future. Maybe that means mutual funds, maybe that means stocks, maybe that means different types of retirement accounts, from a 401k to a Roth IRA, to a million things in between. Again, not an expert, not here to preach about what we should be doing, except that we should be looking at it with our eyes wide open. We should be looking at it in a way that is meaningful and that is real for our future. Because this isn't about being a multimillionaire for the sake of it. It's about creating legacy for our families, for sure. It's about creating a life that is meaningful and abundant, absolutely. But it's also about us creating security in our future when we're not able to work at the same level or the same pace that we can now. I can work and keep going and going and going right now, today. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do in 5 or 10 years from now. So, the younger versions of ourselves, planning for the older versions of ourselves, is really the best gift we can give to ourselves. So, looking at the numbers and being real about what they are, again, about the income and the expenses, especially, and then beyond that, investing is really important. So, it's never too late. It's always better to do it when you're early and when you're younger, right? In your earlier years. That's just the reality. Again, I'm not a financial expert, but anyone will tell you, you put $5 into a bank account when you're 20 and it continues to get interest, for those accounts that actually do get interest. It's just going to keep growing and growing. And then the interest grows on top of the interest and grows on top of the interest. And then 30 years later, you don't have $5 anymore. You have, I don't know what you would have, $100. I'm making that up, as opposed to us taking that $5 and going and spending it, or us taking that $5 and just sticking it in our drawer or in our pocket. it's never going to be worth that $100 if we're not doing something active with it, if we're not educating ourselves about what it is that we can do with that. So being real about who we are now and educating our younger selves for our future selves, really, really important. And right now, we are our younger selves. So the fact that I should have taken that $5 when I was 20 and put it away, absolutely, I should have done that. But I'm not 20 anymore. But I am 55. And then next year, I'll be 56. And then so on and so on. So am I going to look back at 65 and say, what did I do with that $5 when I was 55? I didn't do anything. No, let's start learning now and doing the best we can now to play catch up. And it's possible. It is absolutely possible. I believe it is. Is it going to be in the same way? Again, as if you were doing it with your 20? No, no, I'm not unrealistic. I'm not going to try to sell you some idea that, wow, if you invested when you were 20, you can still do the same exact thing when you're 55. Yeah, you can, but you'll never get that same amount of growth, that compounded interest, that continued upward trajectory of money, making money on top of money. It just won't happen. But it doesn't mean we can't do anything. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't just sit back. It doesn't mean that we should just sit back and do nothing. We can absolutely do something about it. And secondly, I know I just said this a million times. I'm not an expert. I think sometimes we look to people online as financial experts, as people who know so much more than us, as people who have been doing this so much longer, especially if we're looking at, men, especially if we're looking at people who are saying, oh, this is how you need to invest. This is the only way to do it. And this is going to make you millions of dollars. I do think we need to be very cautious about listening to these financial gurus. They have an agenda. They all have an agenda. And whatever that agenda is, to sell you some banking app that they get a commission from, or to sell you some sort of financial plan that they have. And I'm not saying that that financial app that they are promoting might not be a really good one. It might be. I don't use them aside from my banking institution app. But and maybe they really do have a great financial plan for you, and maybe it really will work out. I'm not telling you not to look into them. I'm not telling you not to listen to them, to take tidbits of advice or take pointers, but we have to do our own research. You have to go and do your own research as well. We can't just rely on somebody who's out there on social media and say, "Oh, this person knows the answers. That's the stock I'm going to buy." Because I've thought that so many times, like, so you are telling me that you're a multimillionaire, what stock should I invest in? Just tell me and I'll do it. That's not how it works. First of all, they didn't get their multi-million-dollar portfolio by investing in one stock. That's just not reality. Secondly, that might not be the right fit for us, right? Does it align with our values? Is it something that we are willing to take that big risk on, right? I don't know, maybe that stock is really, really risky, and I'm not going to be putting my $1, never mind my $100,000 into this stock if I'm very risk averse. I'm very afraid of that. So again, can we take the information, digest it, and make it our own? Sure. But we need to do the research behind it and not just trust anyone who shows up on TikTok or Instagram or even on YouTube. We should all really be doing our own due diligence, doing our own research, and figuring out what's the best fit for us and for our future, and for our best selves. And thirdly, don't be afraid to look at the real. Don't be afraid to really look at the balances, look at the budgets, look at the projected future for how much money you have coming in now, how much you might be that might be coming in when you hit that goal retirement age, and whether that's from any retirement accounts that you have, whether it's from Social Security, maybe it's a combination, maybe you have an apartment that has rental income, whatever it is, don't be afraid to look at the real numbers. It is scary. It just is sometimes. Not for everyone, but for anyone who has not planned maybe the way that they had anticipated or the way that they thought that they should, or has sort of general fear around money, even if they look at the balances and wow, they do have enough money. We have to do it. Don't do it all at once. Do it piece by piece, but be real about looking at, okay, this is the budget. This is how much I'm spending. And that's okay. Maybe that's just what you do this month. That's what you do this week. You don't have to overwhelm yourself, because the more afraid we are, the more anxiety we feel, the more shut down we're going to become, and then we're not going to do what needs to be done. And women, we need to take our own finances into our own hand, empower ourselves to know what the money is, know what the income is, know what the investments are, know what the expenses are, know what the debt is, know all of that information. You can't make any progress if you don't know. Maybe having all of this written out into one journal, maybe putting it in a spreadsheet, whatever works best for you. That's step one. Gathering the information and putting it in. Only look at it as facts. As much as you can, try to remove the emotion from it. It's very hard. That's hard to do. But this isn't about judgment. This isn't about solving the problem overnight. It's about getting the information, getting the facts, and writing it down. And then once you have that, then you can start looking at it in a more realistic way. Like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I spent $100 a month on going out to lunch, or, $50 a week on those takeout coffees. That's tremendously easier than you realize. And I'm not saying don't go and get your takeout coffees. I'm just saying be real about what it is that you are spending. Windsor agrees. He thinks that we should be real as well. What am I spending on puppy treats, right? So what are we actually taking in? What are we actually pumping out? Just get the information. Treat it as facts, right? This is sort of a reconnaissance mission where you're going to just go and get the information, put it all into your spreadsheet, and then we'll start talking about the next steps, how it is that we want to address it. Am I spending way too much on going out to coffee or to lunch? Or, okay, maybe I'm going to cut back on that. Or maybe I really thought that I was spending a little bit more money on self-care. This is something that's really important to me. Well, then maybe you're going to take money from somewhere else and you're going to start devoting it to therapy or self-care or exercise, whatever it is that's meaningful to you. Because it's not about depriving ourselves. 2026 is about manifestation. We women are going to manifest our best selves in 2026. I am challenging you, encouraging you, begging you to please manifest your best self in 2026. And that means being your best financially as well. You want to be secure, you want to be happy, you want to be financially sound so that you can live your best life. You can help your family, you can help your community, and you can help you. And as we continue on our happy, healthy, wealthy journey together here at Fab 50s Florida, I'm going to continue to challenge you all the time to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And 2026 is going to be our year to take charge of our finances. So if you have any financial tips or guidance or ways that we can all learn from each other, or information that you have to share, please drop it in the comments, because I read all of the comments. I take all of it very seriously. If you give me sort of a little tidbit about things that we can learn, I'm going to go and do my research, just as you should. Thank you so much for joining me again today and for letting me just rant on and on about how it is that we can be financially our best selves, how I intend to show up to be my best self financially today and tomorrow and into the future. If you found any of this information helpful, if you want to join the journey, please subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share this with anyone else who wants to join our journey of being happy, healthy, and wealthy. And I thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing everyone next week.